Well, it wasn't comfortable until it was finally comfortable, and a large part was thanks to this Eagles defense and then Saquon Barkley getting the offense going late for this Philadelphia Eagles team. When the dust settled, it was 8-2. Your Philadelphia Eagles improving to that and advancing their lead over this Washington Commanders team. And a lot of credit given to Vic Fangio's defense right out of the gate for being able to make Jaden Daniels put up some of the worst numbers he has had to this point in the season until that garbage time drive, but still counts nonetheless. Eagles walk away with the 26-18 victory over the Washington Commanders. Welcome into the betPARX post-game show presented by Lehocky. Marc Farzetta with you, along with Eagles Hall of Famer Seth Joyner and veteran Eagles reporter Derrick Gunn. Fellas, I know we had some tough decisions to make as to who to credit, but overall, you look at some of the guys that took part in this defense, and they did the job. In the pregame, we were talking about Vic Fangio and what his game plan would be. Seth, going up against Jaden Daniels, what did you see from this defense to make him look finally like a rookie?
Well, they made him uncomfortable. You know, early in the game, they did a really good job of controlling the run game. The one drive that Washington had, the one touchdown that they scored is a 4-play drive, 58 yards, and Brian Robinson punches it in the end zone. Beyond that, they had 93 yards of total rushing offense. And to me, that was the key to the game. Put the ball in the young quarterback's hands and force him to beat you rather than allowing them to run the football and bring play action alive and allow him to have all of the entire playbook open. But they just did a good job all the way across the board. I mean, you know, Saquon exploded in the second half, but this was a defensive win in my opinion. Because if they don't play the way that they play, if they don't hold this young kid at quarterback down, you know, the way the game went through the first 3 quarters, I don't know that they really win this football game. But credit to Vic Fangio and this young defense, and credit to, Kellen Moore sticking to the plan to run the football, because there was a lot of negative runs, one yard, two yards. They tried to run the ball a lot right up the middle, and it really wasn't until they started running some of those trap plays off tackle to Lane and Mekhi Becton's side that they really started to get the run game going. And then once they got the run game going, then they started running it right, running it left, and they had Washington's defense kind of off kilter for the first time in the game.
Now, Gunnar, when you look at this defense, you look at a guy like Jalen Carter that went out there and was dominated in the middle of the line of scrimmage. You're finally able to force turnovers late as well. But the feeling throughout this game was the offense, if it was going to get going at all, maybe it would happen finally in the second half. Maybe it would happen in the fourth quarter. But like Seth said, it was the defense that was really carrying the brunt of the workload.
Yeah, and let's start with Jalen Carter. His ability to continuously collapse the middle of that defense. And if you watch Jaden Daniels, very seldom did he have his feet set when he was making a lot of the throws. That's because he had pressure coming up from the middle. And they kept him uncomfortable the entire time. You look at a lot of the throws, they were under throws. A couple of times guys were wide open. He threw them under throws as well. That's because he was throwing off balance in a lot of cases. This defense, man, you talk about gelling at the right time. I don't know what Vic Fangio is feeding these guys right now, but man, they are flat out balling. I mean, you're talking about a Washington offense that came in here averaging 377 yards a game. Eagles held this offense to 264. They were averaging 29 points a game. They held them to, honestly, 10 points. They gave up a meaningless touchdown at the end, okay? They were 1 for 9 at one point on third down. And they finished, 3 for 12 on third down situations? Again, a couple of those first downs were on a meaningless touchdown drive at the end. These young kids in this defense have grown up real quick. You know, and I was waiting to see with Jalen Carter in particular, if you go back to last season, you know, early on in the season, everybody was talking about him being the leading defensive rookie of the year candidate, and all of a sudden they say he hit that proverbial wall, so to speak, that rookies hit sometime. If anything, he's picking up steam now in his second year, and he is the driving force in the trenches for this Eagles defense.
Yeah, you know, the biggest thing that I see with Jalen Carter is he's playing with violent hands. Last year, he was he was playing too chesty, kind of bumping guys and then trying to get off. But the minute that he comes up with his hand out of the dirt, he's swatting and using his hands, and he is a very, very strong, aggressive player. And when he uses his hands the way he used his hands tonight, he's going to be disruptive because those guys, he does a really good job of understanding where they're leaning, or he'll give them a little bit over here, and then once he gets them leaning, then he just whams them this way, or vice versa the other way. So I think that when you look at him, he's really learned how to use his hands and his strength, his quickness, his explosiveness. And you heard the guys on the broadcast. When you leave him one-on-one, he's unblockable. Sometimes when you double him, he destroys that single guy, which makes the other guy irrelevant. So now he's in a gap, and it's almost impossible to block him. I mean, he is a big reason why this defense is playing as well as it's playing.
And it's for these reasons and so many more that not just one player, but the entire Eagles defense is our mid-pen bank players to bank on in this game, because they were controlling this football game well into late into the fourth quarter when they got that meaningless touchdown, but they did a phenomenal job. Gunner, you mentioned it, 300 total yards they allowed in this game. That's it. And they all had also able to take care of business on turnover on downs, interceptions, fumble recoveries, 3 sacks, and also pressuring consistently Jaden Daniels. And before this game, one of the things we highlighted was the fact that he had not looked like a rookie this season. Struggled a little bit against Todd Bowles, only had a 68 passer rating in that game against Tampa Bay Buccaneers in their first game of the season, which led to a loss. And then this game tonight, going to that final drive they had in the fourth quarter, just a 65 passer rating.
Can we go back to that slide? Because I don't want to give the Washington Commanders any more credit than they deserve. Guys, could we put that slide back up 1 second?
It's coming up.
It's all good. Okay, so it's probably my fault because, I was advising the guys on the yardage. They had 264 total yards of offense is all that they had.
Right.
And
less than. So less than 300 yards. Yeah. I understand. Yeah, okay, I see it now.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, I see it now.
But my
You're
point,
right, yeah.
My point is, D. Gunn made the point that a lot of some of those yards were made in garbage time. When we began to talk about it towards the end of the game before their last possession, they had 209 yards of total offense. I mean, that's phenomenal football. I mean, in that last 60-something yards that they got in that scenario, or those 55 yards that they got in that scenario, is really a byproduct of Vic just playing passive and allowing them, to chew clock up, and they got that, they got that touchdown off of that. But before that last possession, they completely dominated this football team. Even if you go back and you look before that, what it does is it brings their third down conversions back down even more, because at one point they were only 1 for 9 in third down conversions. So those numbers are a little bit inflated. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to take away from the Philadelphia Eagles defense and how great of a football game that they played from a statistical standpoint, because it's much more dominant than those than being under. I get it, they're under 300 points,
yards,
300 yards. But as a former defensive player, I pay attention to stuff like that.
I need the exact numbers, and I don't blame you for it. How about this, Quinyon Mitchell? We were talking a lot about before the game. Terry McLaurin having one of his best years, his best year so far, and Jane Daniels and him being on the same page throughout this entire season. Quinyon Mitchell made Terry McLaurin not exist in this football game. He was only targeted twice, I believe it was, making one catch, and that catch was on Cooper DeJean.
And guess we talked about it in the pregame. What did I say?
You said, yep.
77% of the time he lines up to the left side. Who plays on the left side? Quinyon Mitchell. The one reception that he had, guess where he lined up?
On Cooper DeJean.
To the right side. He had to go over there to get off the snide because he wasn't getting anything on the other side with Quinyon Mitchell. And if this is how it's going to be, they better get in the draft and go get him some more wide receivers.
All right, well, how about this point in the game? Eagles are trying to make a statement here, and this was an interesting moment here by Dan Quinn and the Washington Commanders. They're driving. You just have a big catch by Zach Ertz for 16 yards in the fourth quarter on a 2nd and 10. They start driving a little bit more. He hits Bates for a 9-yard gain. Bond comes up with a stop on the outside. Then it sets up a 2nd and 1. They go into no huddle at this point. Milt Williams leaves the game with an injury. He ends up coming back a little bit later. They plug up the hole for Robinson. They stop him right there at the line of scrimmage. Now all of a sudden it's 3rd and 1 at the Eagles' 25-yard line. The Eagles defense standing up big here. They go to Robinson again. Brian Robinson gets stuffed, this time by Zach Bond and Brandon Graham. It sets up now, after a loss of 1 yard on that play, sets up a 4th and 2 from the Eagles' 26-yard line. Dan Quinn, for whatever reason, could have kicked a field goal and taken a lead. Jake Elliott will get to his mistakes tonight, but he had missed the point after. It's 12-10 in favor of the Eagles. You kick the field goal, make the field goal, you end up taking the lead. They chose to challenge this Eagles defense. Jaden Daniels ends up fumbling the snap, controls it, runs to the outside, and there's Zach Bond and Reed Blankenship to lay the wood to make sure they get the stop on the 4th and 2 in the fourth quarter. That was a defense rising to the occasion when the challenge was issued by Dan Quinn.
Well, and the reason why, the defense is the player of the game is because of what transpired after that. Then they go 5 plays, 74 yards. Saquon Barkley rips off a 23-yard touchdown, okay? The next series, Reed Blankenship intercepts the ball. 2 plays later, Saquon Barkley rips off a 39. Game, set, match. It's over. That's why when I'm talking about how great this defense played, they set the table for the offense to be able to just shut this thing all the way down, D-Gun.
The thing is, when you look at the drive you were talking about Washington was on, I have no problem with them going for it. It's the play selection in which they chose. Why would you run right at the teeth of that Eagles defense that have been giving you a problem? There's a great option, play action, especially when you have an athletic young quarterback like Jaden, let him roll out. If he sees daylight, all you needed was a yard. You go right at the teeth of the defense, and then the 4th down call, he fumbles the snap, and you have him roll out, he has nowhere to go. You don't have somebody like a safety valve out in the flat, nothing, because the defense is flowing towards the ball carrier. You could easily have somebody slip behind the coverage. But so, Dan Quinn did a lot of what we used to cry about Nick Sirianni doing just a couple of weeks ago in terms of play selection. So kudos to Dan Quinn for playing right into the Eagles' hands.
Can I say this, though? Jake Elliott keep missing these damn field goals.
My goodness.
Nick Sirianni is going to go back to making some bad decisions, man. Good gosh.
In all honesty, okay, you brought it up, so let's just jump into it now. Were you at all surprised that Nick Sirianni wasn't gambling a little bit more in the first half?
No.
You talk about 3rd downs, 4th downs. You talk about the one thing that did happen offensively was they had that crazy attempt at a trick play that was a complete and utter failure. Maybe that's surprising. Yeah, maybe that scared him away from being aggressive.
Let me say this, because everybody thinks that I'm overly critical of Nick, and I don't agree with a lot of the decisions that he makes. I'm okay with being aggressive in situations where it's warranted. Tonight was not one of those games where being overly aggressive was really warranted. Why? Because the defense was playing lights out all night long. Now, if it's a shootout and Washington's scoring and you're scoring and Washington's scoring again, now you get to a place where you feel like, hey, I got to keep up points-wise. So now you can be a little more aggressive. But tonight, in my opinion, he played it the smart way. Jake Elliott just missed field goals that he normally doesn't. Jake Elliott don't miss 44-yard field goals. He don't miss extra points.
No.
And 50 yards, he hadn't had a 50-yarder. And I mean, all season long. And here's a guy that's usually automatic from 50 yards, So those anomalies, and why I said, if he don't start making some of these field goals, that Nick is going to go the other way. But I agree. Tonight he made the right decisions, because as far as you talk about Dan Quinn and the decision that he made that ultimately cost them the game. Okay, that's being overly aggressive, because if you kick the field goal, you're still in the game. You hope your defense goes out and makes a stop, gives your offense another chance with the football. But the minute that you make that call, now you've put your team in jeopardy, because if the Eagles get a touchdown, now they've got the lead, a big lead, okay? A big lead. It's no longer 10 to 12. Now all of a sudden, it's 19 to 10. And now you're behind the 8 ball because you're 2 scores behind in this game. So I don't have a problem with Nick being aggressive. It's just read the situation and understand what's going on. If you're warranted to go for it or go for 2, then go for it. If the game is on the line and you're trying to keep pace and you know that the opposing team is going to score a lot of points. But when your defense is rolling the way that it's rolling, there is no reason whatsoever in the least little bit that you need to be overly aggressive. Even if Jake doesn't make even if he doesn't make the field goals, he made the right decisions tonight.
I was telling Seth when the score was 10-6, I thought Washington was all of a sudden played real conservative. All they were doing was trying to run the clock down to see if they could stay ahead. And when you get conservative like that and take your offense out of its so-called mental psyche, you know, you're playing right into the opposition's hand. You might be able to get away with something like that on your home field. When you're in the enemy territory, you have to keep attacking and take your chances, because you know on the other side of the football, even though you had played that Eagles offense about as well as you could play it from 2+ quarters, they're so explosive at any given moment. They could hit you. Big run, we saw that. Big pass play, we saw that. It's one of the few offenses in the National Football League that can all of a sudden wake up and all of a sudden you look up, you might be up by 4 points and now you're down by 12, 15 points. That was the case in this game.
They are always one adjustment away
from a big play.
Absolutely. They
Absolutely.
have those types of players on this offense.
Yep.
Absolutely. Now, before we go to break, now the Eagles obviously have improved to 8-2 on the season. All right, they're first place in the NFC. They're fighting for first place, or excuse me, NFC East, fighting for first place in the NFC overall. But you know what they did tonight, Seth? They improved to 6-0 since Derrick Gunn regrew his mustache.
Here we go with this
So
again.
I don't know what analytics people are keeping. I think we have this. Gunner, could you line yourself up there, please,
wait.
on the monitor? There we go. Oh, we're going to get this. There, oh, look at that. 6-0, baby. That's the Jordan Mailata stash that you're growing out there in our
Give me a little twirl on the end. Put it back up 1 second. Let's see if we can't get a little twirl on the end.
See if we can do this here.
Oh, look at this.
And this is hard to do. Hold up. This is hard to do.
Now you know how those weathermen feel. Yeah, see? Can you give me a little see? All right, anyway. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles drive of the game, and also one stat in particular. Derrick Gunn alluded to it earlier, but it's a great brag for this Philadelphia Eagles defense. That's when we return to the betPARX postgame show presented by Lehocky. Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, and Derrick Gunn. There it is in all its glory. Parx Casino, 20 minutes north of Center City, Philadelphia.
It's happening again. Those missed tackles are starting to stack up. Your friends pleading with players who can't hear them. Sweating it out week after week. But not you. Why? Because whether they score or not, there's always another way to win on the betPARX app. New casino users score up to $1,000 bonus back in their first 24 hours.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday.
Most people don't know how to get the care they need. The experts at Stay at Home Care can help. Before choosing a caregiver or family member for your care, you need to apply for the home care program. The application process can be complicated. Stay at Home Care can help you navigate through every step. Once approved, your caregiver or family member will receive guaranteed weekly pay, a variety of medical benefits options, paid holidays, paid vacation, and overtime pay. Call Stay at Home Care, here to help every step of the way.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Parx Casino. And how about this, gentlemen, on the betPARX app, right before kickoff, the line jumped up from 3.5 in favor of the Eagles to 4.5 in favor of the Eagles, and they were still able to cover despite the garbage time touchdown by the Washington Commanders. Welcome back to the betPARX postgame show presented by Lehocky. Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, and Derrick Gunn with you after this Eagles victory, their 8th on the season. Gunner, you alluded to this, and we talked a lot about the defense in the opening segment, but one more thing we got to talk about is that the Washington Commanders coming into this game were incredible on 4th down. They were incredible on 3rd down. 4 44% of the time they were converting, and today, Philadelphia Eagles defense was able to keep that at bay extremely well. What do you credit to their success in getting off the field on third down?
Making plays. The speed on this Eagles defense is incredible. I think we don't talk about that enough. The speed of these young players on the defense, and I'm not just talking about the guys in the trenches, linebackers, the back end. They have so much speed in this defense, and you look at a lot of teams that try to run to the outside, and look at the flow that the defensive personnel has in getting to the football. Very few teams. Early on, Seth and I were screaming because they didn't set the edge. But now, even when they don't set the edge, they have enough pursuit from the linebackers and the back end of this defense that make up for some of the deficiencies that take place within the trenches. I mean, I keep watching this team, and it just amazes me. Wow, look how they fly to the football. Coaches always tell you at every level when you're playing defense, fly to the ball, fly to the ball. These guys just fly to the football, man, and just make plays. Prime example, Jalen Daniels tried to run outside on that fourth down play. Look at how many green jerseys were over there and knocked him out of bounds 2 yards short of the play.
I mean, Zach Bond, Seth, Jalen Carter, Reed Blankenship,
Kobe Dean.
1%, N'Kobe Dean playing great in this game as well. I mean, this is a team, defensively speaking, that has been rebuilt right in front of us with a new cast of characters. Brandon Graham, all the respect in the world to him.
Yeah.
But talking about a team that was talking about before this season, no one was coming to save him. Remember that in the offseason. We're talking about Jordan Davis and talking about Jalen Carter. Fletcher Cox isn't walking through that door to help us out. And now all of a sudden you've seen a new standard set from outside guys, looking at Cooper DeJean since he's come in 6-0. You're also looking at Quinyon Mitchell, and then you look at the interior guys on that defensive line doing a fantastic job this season. And I thought this game was an exclamation point for them.
Well, I think it's a point of at some point in time as young players you have to grow up and you have to realize that, you're not playing Pee Wee football. You're not playing high school trying to get a D1 scholarship. You're not playing, college football anymore trying to get drafted. You're now a professional, and you draw a check every single Tuesday. So at some point in time, you've got to grow up and realize that this is a job, and you have to approach it like a job. You have to prepare like it's a job, and then you have to go out on game day and perform and do your job. And now I think that's what you're seeing from these players. Vic is confident in them. They are confident in themselves. They're preparing for each and every team that they play. You could kind of tell that the short week hindered both teams because they both looked extremely sloppy, throughout the entire first half of that football game. But the Eagles do a good job of adjusting on both sides of the ball, and that's exactly what they did. They kept searching and kept prodding. I think I tweeted, why do the Eagles keep running the ball right in the middle against a stone wall? When you get Saquon Barkley on the edges, off tackle or outside, I think that's where he's most dynamic. But at the same time, once you start to get him off the edges, at some point in time, those defensive tackles are going to start playing towards the edges, which is going to open up some stuff on the inside. So it's being able to monitor that, and it's being able to, look at your tendencies as you're calling the plays and realizing, okay, we can go back in here now because we're getting it out here. We haven't been very successful in the middle. Let's try off tackle. Let's try a couple of pitches outside. Let's get Saquon out of the backfield. The one play that I really love, and Saquon had a lot of great plays tonight, was the check down. With Jalen Hurts, they were in zone. They dropped back. Saquon check release right over the middle. Jalen drops him a ball. He makes a guy miss. To me, anytime you're playing zone and he's check releasing that way, you've got that play anytime that you want it. And the first guy is never going to get Saquon Barkley down on the ground. So you're almost guaranteed a first down, or you're guaranteed something like 5, 6, 7, 8 yards every single time that you do that. So when I watch Jalen hold the ball in the pocket, I'm like, where is his outlet? Why is he not taking his outlet? Like he didn't have the majority of the balls that he threw tonight, we were talking about during the game, he was out of the pocket. Mm-hmm. There's very few balls that I can remember tonight where he actually stood in the pocket on time and delivered the ball. A lot of the passes that he threw, what he wanted initially wasn't there. He took off and he made throws on the run. And to me, he's got to get better at that. He's got to get better. He's got to get better at looking at what's there that he wanted. And if it's not there, okay, where's my check down? Let me give it to him right now. Okay, I got Dallas Goedert check releasing. Let me give it to him right now. Let me get 5, 6 positive yards out of every pass play, even if what I want downfield is not available to me.
Mm-hmm. There were times when he missed wide open receivers going across the middle of the field. The other times I wonder if he floated outside of the pocket because, there were rhythm throws and it wasn't open. And then all of a sudden he floats outside. And how many throwaways did he have in the first half? I counted at least 5 throwaways because the play just wasn't there. We always talk about how, okay, if it's not there, throw it away, live to play another day. And so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for most of those throws. But the ones he keeps missing, the prime example was the one he threw to A.J. in the end zone. And Dallas Goedert is standing wide open inside the 5-yard line by himself, and he missed it.
He probably walks in the end zone.
He walks it into the end zone because the only thing between Goddard and the end zone was air at that point.
I think Jalen's biggest flaw is his desire to go to the primary. And when he wants to go to the primary, he's real slow about coming off the primary, or real slow because he's got faith in AJ and Devontae that, even if they look like they're covered right now, that eventually they're going to break free. And he is willing to wait for him. But when you play against really good defenses, that's not necessarily going to be the case.
Right.
You got to look at that guy. He's not there right now. You got to go to the check down. You got to take what the defense is giving you instead of trying to force the ball down the field or force the ball to your primary read. That's how great quarterbacks, in my opinion, that's how they mature and they grow, by doing just that. Take what the defense is giving you, okay? I know what you want. You want the deep ball. You want to get the ball to AJ. You want to make sure you keep him happy. You want to get the ball to Devontae. You want to make sure you keep him happy. But if they're the primary and they're not open right now, get the ball to your safety valve. There's nothing wrong with that. You just want positive yards, and that'll bring those numbers down. What was he, like 19?
He was 18 of 28.
18 of 28. So that means he missed 10 throws today. Okay, and he was sacked twice. So you can mitigate a lot of that by just taking what the defense gives you, and then those numbers will go up because he was right around 70% completion, for the year. Those numbers are going to bring him down quite a bit. So I don't know. I mean, he's got to learn how to do that, and I'm sure the coaching staff is preaching that to him and preaching it to him. But when you got two really good, when you got receiver 1 and receiver 1A. And they're chirping in your ear, you're trying to make them happy. I understand that. But the objective is to win the game, get an early lead, put points on the board, be efficient early. That means that sometimes you got to take what the defense is giving you instead of waiting to try to hit something down the field or try to go to your primary.
Well, the one thing I did like is the fact that I don't think he tried to force the ball in small windows tonight like he did last week against Dallas. The throws that he did make, he had receivers wide open. He made some decent throws. He didn't turn the football over. That's the bottom line. And again, efficient numbers, 221 yards passing. And I said it last week, we should not be looking for Jalen to be this 350-yard a game passer anymore. This offense doesn't require that because of all the explosive players they have in this offense. Some offenses require the quarterback to throw the ball 40 times and get 350 yards for their offense to have a chance to win. All you got to do if you're Jalen Hurts, don't turn the ball over. Hit the key receivers when you have to. And that's what he's been doing during this win streak. The numbers are not always pretty, but they're efficient, and he gets the job done. He had a couple of miscues last week, so what? Every quarterback does. They still won the game. He came back this week on a primetime game on a Thursday night against a team they're battling for first place. He played efficient football, didn't turn the ball over, made the necessary throws when he had to. Still, like Seth says, he's got to learn to play from the pocket a lot better, sometimes not be as skittish in the pocket, but he let his team live to play another play and didn't force turnovers or try to force the ball into small windows.
Well, I don't know if you guys had the same thing going on as I did in the first half, but it was the blame game all around. Right, so much to be shared. When you talk about missed field goals from Jake Elliott, you talk about missed throws from Jalen Hurts, holding on to the ball too long in the pocket with Jalen Hurts. And then also, let's not forget, Devontae Smith has the drop on the sideline.
Sure.
Then you also have Jahan Dotson on a slant.
Yep.
He also dropped it. I thought the ball was a little behind him on a slant route, but definitely a catchable football. So there was plenty of blame to go around up until our Davis Honda drive of the game when Saquon Barkley decided to take over. And this drive that happened at the 7:55 mark of the fourth quarter helped get things going and establish the Eagles very well. When you talk about Saquon Barkley breaking off for 3 yards, easy. Then Dallas Goedert comes up with a 32-yard reception, fumbles, The other tight end, Ground Calcaterra, is able to make the big play and recover that one to keep the drive alive. Then on a 2nd and 9, he hits A.J. Brown for 6 yards, and then Saquon Barkley rattled off a 23-yard touchdown to put the Eagles up 19-10. Those 23 yards, how about this for Saquon Barkley, fellas? In the fourth quarter alone, Saquon Barkley rattles off 76 yards to help that Eagles offense really get cooking. You talk about the defense being impact players. How about Saquon Barkley just taking over in that fourth quarter?
Well, that's why I tweeted out during the game. I said, you can only contain him for so long, but you can't stop him forever. All he needs a lot of time is one run. And that one run, 23-yard run, that broke Washington's heart. That basically broke their heart, and that's when they conceded defeat at that point. Saquon is the kind of guy, even when you stop him, and Dallas did the same thing. You stop him, you hold him 50-something yards, you hold him 50-something yards, all of a sudden, boom, he hits you. He's such a big body, and his lower body strength, he takes a lot of hits, but he also delivers a lot of punishment. You don't see many guys tackling this man one-on-one by themselves without him falling forward. Very few people stand him up and push him back. And I go back to Malcolm Jenkins said years ago when he was playing for the Eagles, that man has the biggest thighs I've ever seen a running back have since I've been playing pro football. He's just that strong body-wise. And even when you wrap him up and contain him a little bit, you're wearing a defense down more so than you're wearing him down because he knows where he's going with the football. You're trying to figure out where he's going with the football, and you got to brace yourself for the impact. And a lot of times you take more of the punishment than you deliver.
I got a question for you guys. You got a short week. You're trying to figure out, these coaches, they didn't come into this week trying to put their game plan together. They kind of had an idea, during Dallas week what they wanted to do. That's the way you plan. You plan ahead. But do you think that, on a short week that the minimized time to actually work on the game plan and do some of the things that they wanted to implement early in the game hurt both of these teams because they both look really, really sloppy?
Yeah, when you have that short turnaround, you don't get a full week of practice, a full arsenal of practice. Everything's a crash course. All you're doing is walking through. Okay, and we look at this real quick. Now, you have extended time in terms of being in the film room and talking about things, but in terms of just having that full week to thoroughly analyze your opponent, you really don't have that opportunity. So the first portion of a game is usually a guessing chess match between the two teams in terms of what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. And it looked like it. What was the score, 7-3 at halftime? It looked like that over the first 30 minutes. They were trying to figure out exactly what the opposition was doing.
To me, it looked like both teams just being fatigued. With the exception of the ridiculous double reverse that they tried or double flip, whatever they tried to do. Other than that, I didn't have a big problem with the game plan. When it came to Saquon Barkley, though, when we talked about it in the pregame, we said, is it really that easy when you just talk about facing the fourth worst rush defense in the NFL? Well, then obviously you want to hand it to the guy that's second in the league in rushing yards with 991 going into the game. Well, when they were finally able to do that with some success in the fourth quarter, that's when they took the game over. And by the way, I'm going to shortchange Saquon. Yeah, sure, it's impressive to have 76 yards in one quarter. How about 62 yards in 45 seconds?
Wow.
Jeez.
Because after he rattled off the 23-yard touchdown, what happened next? Reed Blankenship came up with the interception. Next play, or 2 plays later, Saquon Barkley rattles off the 39-yard touchdown.
The man had 28 touches for 198 yards. 2 catches. One was 43 yards. 26 rushing. One was 39 yards. You talk about explosive on top of explosive. And he goes out, takes that breather, but when he comes back, he's fully charged to go. This guy's like a kid in a candy store when he's playing behind his offensive line compared to what he endured for most of his season with the Giants. He's just out there having fun playing football and more importantly, winning football, something they very seldom did when he was with the Giants.
How sick do you think the New York Giants are?
Oh, my goodness. How sick and how stupid do you think they are?
I like it. They're not sleeping.
That'll tweet as we go to break.
You're just going to put that out right now?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, well, speaking of engaging.
Why are you antagonizing people?
Speaking of engaging the fan base, obviously, we're going to talk to Bailey Livesey, our social media coordinator, and she'll tell us basically the theme of the chat when it comes to the Eagles taking care of business against the Washington Commanders, put a little bit more space between them and the NFC East as they're hunting for the top spot in the NFC overall. We'll be back with the betPARX postgame show presented by Lehocky in a few. The betPARX Sportsbook. Get in on all the action. Take in the game. Enjoy some fine drinks.
At Pond Lehocky Giordano, we understand the impact an injury can have on your life. Our experienced attorneys have recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we know we can do the same for you. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured at work, give Lehocky a call.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family-owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging. Our core values drive everything we do. Come, join our team.
This is PARX.
This is how you roll. This is how it goes. This is how you pop. This is how you rock. Take a chance, do a dance, little romance. This is how you. This is how you excite. This is how you all night. 360 hit me. Now we're going all in. I can feel it calling. The crowd, the light, the night, the sights, the vibe is right. This is how you. This is
PARX, Pennsylvania's #1 casino experience. This is how you win.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional-grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
This next segment is brought to you by Lehocky. Welcome back to the betPARX postgame show presented by Lehocky from PARX Casino. Over 3,200 slot machines here at PARX Casino, just 20 minutes north of Center City, Philadelphia in Bensalem. Ladies and gentlemen, the Eagles won this game and dominated defensively for the vast majority of this game. And the offense came on strong to make sure they closed it out. To monitor the chat and see what the main themes have been throughout, we bring in our social media coordinator, Bailey Livesey, right now. Bailey, hello, welcome. And what are the good people talking about?
Well, hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a great Thursday night. I mean, especially after that win. But to get started off here, the first question that we pulled from the chat, we were off to quite the slow start. Were you concerned at all?
I was waiting for the big turnover. I didn't feel like the offense was going to get going. I was optimistic that Saquon would break one and help out the offense, but I thought, especially at the start of that fourth quarter, the defense was going to have to get a big takeaway to turn the tides of the game. Seth, how about you?
Well, I was worried, man. I really was. It just didn't seem like they were going to find any type of rhythm whatsoever. But at the same time, you know, what kind of quelched some of my worry is how well the defense was playing. And the fact that, you know, the Washington Commanders weren't doing much either. So the game pretty much stayed even, you know, until the Eagles were able to, you know, to break out and get the 12-10 lead. And then, you know, you could kind of take a sigh of relief, you know, sort of, you know, when Jake Elliott missed that extra point, I was like, geez, man, really? That now they're a field goal away from having the lead back. But, yeah, I was a little bit worried, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I had concerns when Washington went up 7-3. I'm thinking, okay, you know, this is an NFC East match. Everybody's been waiting to see this game. And if you look at how the first half of the game unfolded, you're just waiting for some type of big play from the Eagles, and Washington did a good job of stonewalling them for the most part. And I'm thinking, please don't let Washington go up 14-3 because that's a huge momentum changer at that point. But luckily, the game stayed the way it was at 7-3 because both teams are rather sluggish coming out of the gate. And then, of course, the Eagles asserted themselves in that second half.
I'll tell you what, the biggest drive was the first possession that Washington had coming out of the halftime, and they moved the ball pretty well down the field. And the Eagles finally stoned them and forced them to kick a field goal. If they score a touchdown there, I don't know. I don't know if we come back from that.
Right after that, Eagles have a long drive. They settle for a field goal. 31-yard field goal by Jake Elliott makes it a 10-6 game. Eagles are able to get off the field after a third and 5. They come up with the big stop there. Actually, it was Nolan Smith came up with the sack. And really, ever since that moment, from that moment on in the game, really things went in the Eagles' direction. They had the long drive that ended with Jalen Hurts' tush-push touchdown. They get off the field on the 4th and 2, where the Commanders are going for it in that crucial play. And then Saquon Barkley gets a 23-yard touchdown. Next thing you know, it's 19-10.
You know, I tell you what, they've got this habit. They did it last week. They came out, they scored a touchdown last week against the Cowboys, last possession of the half. They came out and punt. They went touchdown, touchdown, field goal, punt to end the game. They come out today. They go field goal right before the half. They go field goal on their first possession of the second half, and then they go touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. It's like, can y'all do that, in the first half?
Yeah, right.
So we can enjoy our meal and
we can breathe a little easier for the remaining 3 quarters.
Hey, the shrimp and the pork and the mashed potatoes go down a lot easier if they can do that for us,
It was only a matter of time before shrimp worked its way on to the postgame show.
Squimps.
I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Bailey, what else do you have for us?
Well, this was a huge win for the Birds. That is now 6 wins in a row. How excited or anxious are you about the rest of the season?
God, I'm going to go to you first.
Yeah.
Because before the game, Seth, you looked at him. He was, I'll say it again, giddy. He was waiting for this matchup. He was looking forward to this game. It played out, I'm sure, the way you wanted it to. How happy are you now?
I'm elated, because I think this was their best test during the 6-game streak that they're on right now, in terms of the magnitude of what it meant for them. Because Washington was in first place, and then they lose by 1 point to Pittsburgh, and that set the stage for what's to come tonight. Dan Quinn's telling his team, hey, look, we can make our mark here in Philadelphia, one of the most hostile environments in all of pro football here tonight, if we can find a way to get a W here. And the Eagles took this game from them, took their hearts out by that 4th quarter. This is huge. So when you look ahead to who they have next, they have the Rams coming out of this extended break. They still have to deal with Baltimore. They got to go down to Washington as well. I'm excited to see what they do against these teams now, because you have to play the Rams. The Rams are coming off a bad loss to Miami. Okay, and the Rams are going to play again this week. But when they have the receivers healthy, that's an interesting matchup. When they have those 2 receivers healthy out there in the Rams. And Matthew Stafford, let's face it, plays better at home than he does on the road in a lot of cases. Then you got to go to Baltimore as well and play basically what everybody's saying is the leading MVP candidate right now in Lamar Jackson and their offense. And the receivers they have down there are probably the fastest group of receivers in all the NFL. I mean, those dudes are like cheetahs down there. So that's going to be an interesting game. Baltimore's defense is very porous, but their offense is electric. So I'm looking forward to seeing those matchups. And, of course, in the rematch down in Landover against this team that's licking its wounds right now.
Most meaningful win so far, Seth?
I think every win is meaningful, especially, when you begin the season at 2-2 and there's so much consternation, on the parts, according to Saquon, they were just happy to get through, the preseason. That's what they looked at the first 4 games as. They went 2-2. But, after the bye, this is, where, okay, we should be moving in the most positive of directions. I think every win is a big win when you start stacking them and you win 6 in a row. Like when a team is won like 3 or 4 games in a row and then they have a loss, then you have one of those scenarios where, all kind of thoughts begin to creep in. But when you're just reeling them off one after the other, after a while, you get to a point where you start to really believe, no matter what the circumstances look like, no matter what the situation looks like, that there's a chance that we can come back and win this game. Why? Mm-hmm. Because we've done it before, So every last one of these games are important because it continues to build their confidence. And, I think the biggest thing they got to work, they've got to figure out the first half. Because you can't play against teams like the Rams and Baltimore and just kind of sleepwalk through the first half and then come out and turn it on in the second half. Because if you get down by 2 or 3 touchdowns in the first half, now instead of you being able to run the ball with Saquon to set up the rest of your offense, now you go into passing mode and you have no other choice but to pass to catch up. So now we've got Jalen throwing the ball 35, 40 times just to catch up. They've got to get the first half, especially the first quarter, fixed.
Will you bring that up? Is that not coaching? Is that not game planning? Is that not preparing in the not best way? Because it seems like a consistent thing. And the Eagles, the first time when they broke that trend, it was off mostly a punt that was forced fumble from Sidney Brown. They were able to do it against the Cowboys, obviously, but that's a banged-up team, as we all know. Is it mostly coaching and the game plan in the first 15 plays not being the best ideas?
I mean, you can look at it that way, but, from a coach's perspective, it's about execution. I've talked about it, I don't know how many times. There's been plenty of times where I've been in the huddle and the players come in and, I call the player and we look at each other like this is the worst damn thing that we could possibly be in, But as players, your job is to execute what's called whatever the play call is, So even if it's a play call that you don't necessarily think will work, your job is to execute it to the best of your ability and make it work.
Mm-hmm. When I looked at when I looked at Week 1, Green Bay Packers game in Brazil, I said that was the most pressure that could ever be on a Week 1 game, considering how last season ended, and the Eagles handled their business and they got that win. Since that victory, this is the most meaningful game to me. And I'm very excited to see the Eagles pull this out, take control in the fourth quarter, because, they went up against the Giants in their own division there, and they dominated the Giants. They should have, and they did. Then they went up against the Dallas Cowboys, obviously, a team that was banged up, and they handled the business down there on the road. Both those games in the division on the road. The Eagles got a chance on Thursday night under the bright lights, everybody watching, to make sure that they could make Jalen Daniels look like a rookie. They did that tonight. And then in the fourth quarter, you saw how special Saquon Barkley was. So I'm absolutely pumped that the Eagles won this game. It puts them in a great position now, have a long layoff before they have the Rams, and then they have the Ravens. They're like going into this game with the most rest you could possibly have, resting players in the fourth quarter. You now have that going into the two biggest games after this one for the rest of this season. Bailey, what else do you have for us? I know we got one more.
All right, well, Saquon Barkley was lights out. Are we taking him as the player of the game? And if not, then who?
If we don't have to choose the defense. Now, we did say, I don't know if it's being on the fence or not, but we did have the entire defense as the players of the game. When it came, I guess, to the MVP, if you could only name one player, would you guys go Saquon Barkley?
Absolutely.
Oh, you have to.
and I think, our decision-making, yes, the defense played lights out. But this is becoming so commonplace for, Saquon, unfortunately, that we expect for him to have games like this every single week. So then we get to a place when we're starting to talk about who the players of the game is. There's going to be some games where we overlook him and choose someone else because this is old hat for him. This is what he does when he takes the football field.
Mm-hmm. Went into tonight, 991 yards. Mm-hmm. Well over 1,000 now, so that's not too bad.
Until further notice, he's your NFL's leading rusher right now.
Did you do the math? What's Derrick Henry? Yeah, Derrick Henry's at 121, or 120.
Yeah.
Or I should say 1,120. Yeah. Excuse me. Bailey Livesey, thank you so much. Appreciate you as per usual.
No problem at all. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Enjoy the 10 days off before we do this whole thing again. How about that?
I'll miss you guys.
All right. No tears.
I'm not going to miss y'all. I'm so glad to have some time off. I don't know what to do with myself.
What did we do to you, man? What
we ate all the scrimps, apparently.
Just because we ate all the scrimps.
He ate all the mashed potatoes, man. And he took all the good ones out of the center of the pot, too. You can tell he's the only child.
Hey, look, man. They said first come, first serve, man. Look. They had the little dressing on them. I said, I got to get some of that part.
See?
Because you seen Seth eat?
Yeah.
Man, Seth had food hanging down the side of his mouth.
Man, all I had was shrimp tonight. You need to stop.
He had sauce running down the side of his mouth.
We have fun on this program. All in all, something I want to circle back with, and it is the first quarter of games for the Philadelphia Eagles. And you've seen them have some success over the two previous games to tonight. And then tonight, not a lot of success in the first quarter, obviously. Our job, I consider it to be, it's not just about beating the Commanders, and this was obviously a huge win for the Eagles, but it's about beating those true upper echelon teams and teams you feel like you're going to be competing with to win the NFC and then later win the Super Bowl, hopefully. Is this something they absolutely have to correct? They have to figure out a way to crack this code with consistency. Just like we talked about before, Jalen Hurts can't turn the football over. You're not going to win football games if you're turning the football over. Is it something that is along those lines where you can't have slow starts against more of those upper echelon teams?
Listen, it has to be because, these other teams come out and they score in the first quarter and they have, good offenses. Like, you're not beating Detroit if you can't score some points in the first half. San Francisco, they're starting to get a little bit healthy. You're not beating San Francisco if you don't score some points in the first half. Arizona Cardinals, they're leading their division right now and they're playing well. They score points. You can't be in a situation where you get behind early in the game and you're playing catch-up the entire game. They've got to figure out how to put some points on the board in the first quarter and the first half. It's just a must.
I will say this. If the defense continues to perform the way it has and keeps the offense in the game, I think the offense can get by if it's coming out of the gate sluggish. If the defense can hold the likes of Baltimore and the Rams down the way they did Washington tonight, because we know at some point this Eagles offense is going to have and accumulate explosive plays. So if they can keep the opposition down like that, I could live with this. But I don't want to see them go into the NFC Championship game or potential Super Bowl against the likes of a Kansas City and play this type of football. But the type of football they're playing right now can get you to the NFC Championship game and possibly a Super Bowl.
So let's just fast forward just to put a bow in this conversation. The Baltimore Ravens offense is just lights out.
Oh, it is. Oh, it is.
Their defense is suspect in some ways.
Yeah.
Okay. So if their offense comes out and they're lighting it up and defensively we're not figuring it out, they potentially could put 2-3 touchdowns on the board before we wake up. We're sleepwalking through the first against a defense that they should be dominating.
Yes.
You know how hard it is to be on the road and be down by 17 or 21 points, and then you have to come back? You know, now you playing into the defense's hands because you take away the effective nature of Saquon. He's not running the ball as much as you need him to run the football, and now the game is in Jalen's hands. And I'm not saying that he can't get it done. We've seen him carry this team in the past. So I'm not saying he can't get it done, but it's an uphill slog.
I just find it interesting right now that we've talked about the identity of this football team, the bread and butter of this football team being a running team, Saquon going off. Then we've also talked about the defense dominating from start to finish in football games. And this is a team that has Jalen Hurts as a quarterback and two recently signed receivers in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. It's not a knock on the passing game as much as it is an embarrassment of riches that this Philadelphia team has.
You know, I was talking in the pregame show about I'm going to see Devontae Smith have one of those big games. Again, what did he have, 4 catches, 29 yards in this game? If you look at his overall numbers across the board, he has not been that so-called second-tier big play player that we were accustomed to seeing just a year ago. And I don't know why. I don't know if they're doubling down on him more or whatever the case may be. He had one nice catch where he broke away from a tackle and picked up a nice game in the second half tonight. But for some reason, he just hasn't been that 8, 9, 10 catch guy consistently that we were hoping we saw. Now, his turn's going to come. There's no question about it. And every game dictates itself. You know, when teams start doubling A.J. Moore, he's going to be that guy. I'm just surprised we haven't seen more of it up to this point.
Hey, look, I don't care if you're an Eagles fan and a Jalen Hurts hater, because I know those two things exist in the same, but I don't care who you were. At the end of that first half, when they showed a picture of the medical tent on the broadcast and said Jalen Hurts was in the medical tent, I'm sure everyone took a big gasp. I don't know if anyone's ready for the Kenny Pickett era in Philadelphia, but it looks like right now that ain't happening. When we come back, we're going to talk to our sports doc about what happens through that entire process. Just before the half, it was good to see Jalen Hurts jog off the field. We'll talk to our man, Dr. Bruce Grossinger, coming up in a second and continue to break down the Philadelphia Eagles' 8th win of the season, improving to 8-2 after their 26-18 win over the Washington Commanders. The 360 Lounge, where we're doing tonight's post-game show. Enjoy some fine drinks and great entertainment.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday.
And the next thing I knew, I woke up in a hospital bed.
Has a friend ever told you a story about an accident and someone says,
you should probably sue them.
Forget your friend. Call Lehocky Giordano.
We're an injury law firm that's recovered billions of dollars for our clients.
And with our vast network of attorneys throughout the country, we know we can do the same for you.
So if you've been injured in an accident, give Lehocky a call.
One conversation is all it takes, and you won't pay a dime until we win.
Sell your car to us, no hassle, no fuss. DivaSpiceCars.com.
Did
Did you know that Davis Honda will pay top dollar for your car? Go to davisbuyscars.com and get an instant quote on your vehicle. We'll make the purchase as easy as possible and put cash in your hand faster than you can say davisbuyscars.com.
Sell your car to us, no hassle, no fuss. davisbuyscars.com.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
This next segment is brought to you by Verizon. Welcome back to the betPARX postgame show presented by Lehocky. Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, and Derrick Gunn with you on the heels of the Eagles' 8th win of the season and taking home a 26-18 victory over the Washington Commanders. Put a little bit more space between them and the Commanders for first place in the NFC East. Some concerns in this game injury-wise, and for more on that, we're going to talk to our sports doc, Dr. Bruce Grossinger, joining us right now. Doc, first and foremost, we were all excited to see Jordan Mailata come back into this game. Landon Dickerson had an issue. We'll get to that in a second. But when it comes to Jalen Hurts, I think every Eagles fan had a sigh of relief when he came out and played in the second half. What was going on at that point in the game when you saw him go into the medical tent and then obviously goes and clears evaluation?
Certainly was very tenuous, very ominous. And even there was a scoreboard at the beginning of the second half saying Jalen Hurts is questionable to return. So I think the crowd was very silent. Apparently he went into the locker room and they do a mini mental status exam. So they check the eyes, they check for nystagmus. He was oriented and he was able to come out and play. But he hit the turf hard and it was of great concern.
When you see something like that happen in a game, Doc, does it immediately go through all your experience? Hope that's not a concussion. What's that look like to you?
Yeah, definitely. You hope it's not a concussion. And if it's questionable, they have an independent neurologist there. And if something's questionable, they would have ruled him out for the remainder of the game. And again, you talked about Kenny Pickett. I'm not confident that he could have won the game. So that was a very scary time. And when he came out, you saw him warming up on the sideline, and he looked okay. And in fact, one of the shocking things is, if you recall, the first play of the second half was a run. It was a quarterback run by Hurts to the right side of the field. And so I guess that must have surprised the Commanders, I guess, because they were
Doc, trust me, it surprised everybody because we were sitting here talking about it. That first play, it was like your quarterback just got out of a concussion check, and the first play you run in the second half is a quarterback keep. Jeez, so it must not have been.
That was a little perplexing to me.
Okay, I'm concerned with our offensive line and their health. Landon Dickerson went out for a short period of time. I don't know whether it was a knee or ankle, but he came back in and finished the game. And obviously having Jordan Mailata back is always a big plus.
Yeah, definitely. And again, Landon limped off. He went into the medical tent, and we presume it was some type of lower leg. Just he got rolled up upon. He came back and he played the whole second half, and they needed him. And just amazing to be there in person. I watched the game with Brian Westbrook, and that was great. And he was saying that, I heard about what you guys were talking about. He said that he sees Jalen processing, and he just thinks there's a slow processing there with going through his read. So I thought hearing from a guy like Brian Westbrook was really pretty cool during the game. And just the Eagles are so explosive. It was such a molasses game, like you said, the first half, 7-3, and then they came back and that interception and Saquon really is a second half runner, and it was exciting. And then the crowd was very silent for the first half of the game, and they just came alive, and it was very exciting to see them win going away.
Doc, Jordan Mailata's first game back from that hamstring issue. They were being very coy earlier in the week, and then of course he played in this game. How did he look to you?
he looked okay. And I think Seth, it was perplexing that just the way when they open up a 21-day window, who knows what that really means. Apparently he did the walkthroughs and he looked fine to me. In fact, you saw him flexing. He led some big runs, and Jordan's a very emotional guy. And you saw flexing after runs, and he looked great, actually.
All right, good signs for the rest of the season then for Jordan Mailata, and also good to have the 10-day layoff. Doc, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us to break it all down when it came to the injuries in this game.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good night.
You as well.
Right,
See you in 10 days, Doc. Dr. Bruce Grossinger joining us right there to break it all down. Now, when it's come to Saquon Barkley, we talked a lot about how he's the MVP of this offense, especially in tonight's game, and has been for quite some time. When it came to players of the game, we were talking a lot about this Eagles defense, and it's really hard to pick somebody that could be the MVP of this defense. We just talked about this team being a complete team: defense, passing game, running game, offensive line, obviously. But when it comes to this defense, we have seen guys rise up. Zach Bond, Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean allowed the only catch tonight that was a target to Terry McLaurin, that's a pretty good brag to have as well. But, Seth, if you had to pick someone that would be the MVP of the defense to this point, who would you be looking at to say that guy right there is the most valuable player?
It's so hard because Quinyon Mitchell has played exceptional. Cooper DeJean has played exceptional. It's so hard to just pick one guy. Josh Sweat has begun to pick it up in the pass rush department. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm super impressed with the two linebackers, to be honest with you, because week after week after week, the linebackers should always lead your team in tacklings. That should always be the case. Zach Bond, 15 tackles, 9 solos tonight. Nakobe Dean, 10 tackles, I think 9 solo or 8 solo tonight. Again.
8 solo, yeah.
And here these two guys are right here week after week after week. It's almost like they've got this internal competition going on between the two of them, and because they seem to alternate week by week who leads in tackles, but they're always 1 and 2 in tackles. And it's been so long since we've had able linebackers. And I've always said that the linebackers are the glue of your defense. And, yeah, I might be a little biased because I used to play linebacker, but linebackers are a hybrid of the two units, the one that's in front of them and the one that's behind them, because they're tied to the defensive front because they've got to stop the run. Yet they're tied to the back end because they've got to be an integral part of the pass, whether it's zone or man, they've got to be an integral part of that. So they are the glue that kind of ties everything together. And these guys are playing in a way that this defense is tied together at every juncture. I mean, if I had to pick, I wouldn't pick just one. I would say that Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond right now are probably the MVPs on the defensive side of the football.
Gunnar,
or Jalen Carter. I know where he's going. That's why I had to go.
Where am I going? Where am I going?
Jalen Carter.
You are absolutely wrong, my friend.
Oh, what?
I have to go with Zach Bond.
Oh, you okay.
Because this guy basically walked in off the streets. Nobody knew what he was going to bring to the table. Obviously, he was misused for years down in New Orleans. He was mostly a special teams player and a part-time player. He comes here. Vic Fangio identifies something in him and has made this guy, put him on a Pro Bowl level right now. 3 of his last 4 games, he's had double-digit tackles. He's got 87 tackles on the season, 55 solos, and he's got 4 tackles for losses as well, plus 2 QB sacks. Nobody thought this guy would be as such a force, and he's all over the field. Every time you look up, he's making a big tackle. He's breaking up a pass somewhere. He broke up a pass over the middle tonight that Jaden Daniels threw. He's flying across the middle, breaking up that pass as well. Nakobe Dean had an incredible open field tackle on Jaden Daniels. I've seen Jaden Daniels make a lot of people miss, and that includes DBs when he gives them that little shimmy. Nakobe Dean stuck him and planted him to the ground. My one and two players have to be the linebackers right now. Jalen Carter has been phenomenal in terms of holding his own in the trenches and collapsing the pockets, but I got to go with the linebackers right now to start. You know what I'm saying? See? All right, see? I'm going to give the linebackers some love tonight. Next week or in 10 days, this might be somebody different.
Which is why I have to go with Jalen Carter, all right?
Just to be different. I knew he would. Just to be different.
Okay, well, here's my thinking. When Vic Fangio talked about the tackling issues with this Eagles defense, he talked all about the defensive line. And if the defensive line wasn't doing their job, and there's 10-foot holes for running backs to run through. Well, then guess what? They can cut any which way, and linebackers are going to have a difficult time. Defensive backs are going to have a difficult time coming up and making that tackle. And what have we talked about over the last 6 weeks now? Tackling, improving with this Eagles team. And what goes right with that? Well, what goes right with that is this defensive line, namely Jalen Carter, making those lanes a lot smaller and that clock tick a lot faster in the quarterback's head when he has to make a decision. I have no doubt in my mind that Jaden Daniels tonight was hearing footsteps, and he had a clock going tick, 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 tick in his head throughout the first half of this game, and then especially in that fourth quarter. When I watched this game, I saw Jalen Carter dominating again, especially when it came to the double team. So, look, there's 1A, 1B, 1C. There's no 2. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Jalen Carter, to me, has been the MVP because since he has started playing at an elite level, he's made everybody else's job a lot easier. To argue for the defensive back, though, for Quinyon Mitchell, the thing that's amazing about him is that quarterbacks have a choice, whether they even want to look his direction. And that seems like a really bad idea for a lot of quarterbacks.
Jaden Daniels didn't even look Terry McLaurin's way the first half. Oof. He had no looks, no targets, nothing. And then he had 2 targets total for the game. That tells you all you need to know about this young man. And he's going to play some better wide receivers coming up after this 10-day layoff. And I can't wait to see him match up against some of these guys like for the Rams and the Ravens and teams like that. It's going to be real fun watching him as he continues to mature in his position.
Now and that's almost unheard of because the one thing that coordinators do is they attack rookies. They attack the young guys, and they're just not attacking this kid. I mean, they're not throwing. He's not getting many targets his way as a rookie. Can you imagine after he gets 2 or 3 years in the league? It's going to be like Guantanamo Bay over there. They're not even going to look that way.
I have seen that nickname, and I love that nickname. That's a great one. Also, when you talk about this defense, Seth, you alluded to it in the pregame. What was the problem with Vic Fangio? I mean, we talked about him not getting along in Miami, supposedly. We've talked about what has been supposedly Vic Fangio's style defense in Philadelphia, whether it was Jonathan Gannon, whether it was Sean Desai, and then Matt Patricia's doing his own thing, I guess. But all in all, this has been a very different defense than what we were sold was supposed to be the Vic Fangio defense. What all of a sudden has changed?
Well, Deacon, how long was he in Miami? Was he
1 year?
1 year.
Yeah.
1 year. It's funny because I heard the guys, during the broadcast talk about him being there 1 year, and that was a veteran defense. In order for any coordinator to have success, whether it be an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator, players have to buy into what he's selling. And if your players aren't buying into what he's selling, that means that they're not going to give their best efforts to execute the defense or the offense. When you have older players, it's like this catch-22 because when you have young players, older defensive coordinators or coaches don't like young players because they require time to grow and to mature and to catch up. Coaches sometimes don't like older players because you can see through the BS. Like, you've been in the league too long. You can see when a coach is giving you a snow job and when he's just 100% for real. I think what happened with Vic in Miami is he had a bunch of older guys that didn't like his defense. He was probably trying to feel them out the way he did with this young team over the first, 4 games of the season to figure out who could do what and how to adjust his defense. And they probably played a little softer, which they didn't like. So there was a problem. There was 100% a problem. But when you got young players that are eager to get better, eager to learn, eager to step into their true potential, these guys are buying into what Vic Fangio is selling. Even more so now because they're beginning to see the fruits and the success of doing what he's asking them to do. And that trust is just going to grow more and more and more. And his playbook is going to expand and expand and expand because the more he can trust them, the more he can give them to do. So that means he's going to be able to disguise more. He's going to be able to run more blitzes and do some different things, that under normal circumstances he wouldn't necessarily do. As far as Sean Desai and Jonathan Gannon is concerned, I think they kind of grew up in a little bit of what he was doing, but I don't think they ever truly embodied the Vic Fangio scheme of defense. Because, yeah, we saw the soft defense in week 2 against the Falcons. We saw the passive defense in week 4 against Tampa Bay when they just got their doors blown off, okay? But what Vic Fangio did do is that he adjusted. He said, okay, we're not going to play 8 to 10 yards off the ball and let the quarterback just raise up and complete slants and hitches and all these kinds of stuff. We're going to get our young cornerbacks up. You want to know why? Because I trust them to challenge guys at the line of scrimmage and realize that they're not just going to run off and make these explosive plays. Remember, supposedly Vic Fangio's defense, according to Sean Desai and Jonathan Gannon, was bend but don't break. We're going to give you what you want between the 20s, and then we're going to be more aggressive down in the red zone. We're not seeing that out of the Vic Fangio and his defense and the way that he's running it now because he trusts these players.
You know what's interesting is that we hear all the negativity coming out of what Vic Fangio did or did not do down in Miami, but when he was there, they set a record for quarterback sacks in his defense, and they were a decent defense. So I don't know how much of the rumors were true about players didn't like him, because no player ever came forward to verify whether or not it was true or not.
They're not gonna do that.
Well, you got some players down there that got loose in like Jalen Ramsey. You got some players that speak their mind down there. They don't care what you think or how you think it. And I was surprised that nobody. And they always, you always have to, according to sources.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
The leaks.
Right. So you didn't hear much of that, but it's just this rumor surfaced that players didn't like playing for Vic Fangio. Yet they played well on defense last year and set records along the way.
Some players just want to do things the way that they want to do them.
Sure.
And that's not always the most beneficial, ways of doing it. We're looking at that with the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers. He wants to run his offense the way he wants to run it. Look at the car wreck that is, But there's very few players that I've ever played with, players that I've known, or players that I've witnessed that didn't want to be coached hard and didn't want to be told what to do and wouldn't trust the coach once they began to see the fruits of the success. I experienced that. We experienced that with Bud Carson. When Bud Carson came here, we were loyal buddy guys. You know what I'm saying? But until we bought into what he was selling, we had the number 1 defense Bud Carson's first year here, not under Buddy Ryan. And I respect the hell out of Buddy. But it was Bud Carson's defense that caused us to be number 1 across the board.
Two things with Vic Fangio that have really impressed me. One, all the stuff that you guys were alluding to coming out of Miami, you didn't hear any of that from any of the Eagles players, young guys or old guys. They all talked about, yeah, he's an old school guy, but you love that. And he doesn't say anything to you. He doesn't say to us. And players love that when you talk about that you talk about that defensive coordinator. And that's what he was doing here in Philly. The other thing is, in the first 4 games of the season, we heard Vic Fangio talk about giving his defensive backs the option of playing up at the line of scrimmage and playing press coverage. And then all of a sudden after the bye week, it didn't seem like that was much of an option anymore. It seemed like that was a mandate by the defensive coordinator. That's a big adjustment. He literally said, I give him the option. 2 weeks later after the bye week, there was no option. It was one choice. You play up. If I call play up, you play up.
As
no
it should
option.
be.
As it should be. I wholeheartedly agree. When we come back, we'll give you our final thoughts on this Eagles victory, including our game balls and, I don't know, maybe what we're going to be doing over the next 10 days, other than missing you, of course. That's when we return here on the betPARX postgame show, presented by Lehocky from Parx Casino in Bensalem. And there's a look at the amazing beer garden. You can watch the game there as well and enjoy a fine pint.
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges from a Linc-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.
It's happening again. Those missed tackles are starting to stack up. Your friends pleading with players who can't hear them. Sweating it out week after week. But not you. Why? Because whether they score or not, there's always another way to win on the betPARX app. New casino users score up to $1,000 bonus back in their first 24 hours.
At Lehocky, we're neither a pawn nor a hockey team.
In fact, I don't even know how to skate.
Cut.
We're the injury law firm that you want fighting for you.
With our vast network of attorneys across the country, we know the playbook on injury law.
It's how Pond Lehocky recovered billions of dollars for more than 100,000 injured and disabled workers.
And we know we can do the same for you.
So give Pond Lehocky a call. No other law firm will fight harder for you.
And you'll never pay a dime until we win.
Stick to the code. I'm in my zone. Let's go. Let's go. I'm back in my bag. I'm wrecking the wins and it's making them.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday.
This next segment is brought to you by Stay at Home Home Care. Welcome back to the betPARX postgame show presented by Pond Lehocky from Parx Casino in Ben Salem. Over 3,200 slot machines right here at Parx Casino. Gentlemen, before we talk about some giveaways, give our final thoughts on our game balls, we've been, as you would expect, rather optimistic about a win like this for your Philadelphia Eagles. There were blemishes in this game, unfortunately. I just want to measure your concern real quick. Let's talk about Jake Elliott. Missing some field goals tonight that we normally see him make. Missing point after as well. When it comes to Jake Elliott, Seth, what is your level of concern with Jake Elliott?
Not a lot, because you know what? You know, kicking a field goal is much like playing golf. You know, you're just gonna have an off day every once in a while, and I'm gonna chalk it up to that until it becomes a concern.
Okay, Gunner.
One bad game does not a quality kicker make. This man's made too many big kicks for this organization. He had an off night tonight, and I'm going to leave it at that. I mean, he's made 57, 58, 60-yard field goals before. Didn't happen in this game tonight. I'm not concerned one iota about him right now.
All right, we've talked a little bit about the first quarter points not being a regular thing for the Eagles, unfortunately. When you talk about that, it also runs hand-in-hand with Jalen Hurts. Miscues in the first half. We also talked about the drops. How concerned are you about Jalen Hurts and that passing game not really getting going tonight?
I think we're just going to have to live with Jalen being Jalen. We've watched him do this too many times this season, and here we are 10 games into the season where he's missed wide-open guys trying to take the big shot. And, he comes back and he'll make a big throw somewhere. I think that's just what we're going to have to accept right now. I mean, he's going to look at the tape. I mean, we keep saying he's going to look at the tape. He's going to make adjustments, and he hasn't done it yet as far as, what we've seen when the bullets start flying for real. I just think that's his MO right now. Hopefully he can cut down on that, because you're going to get to a point where the big miss could cost you a big win. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about in the playoffs somewhere. And hopefully they do get it corrected, but as of right now, we just have to accept what it is.
Yeah, and he had, 260 yards passing tonight?
221.
221, excuse me. So first half didn't get it going. Second half, things were moving a little bit more. Concerned about Jalen?
I'm not, and I can't. I get what D Gunn is saying, but I can't accept that, because there's going to come a point in time throughout the rest of the season, in the next 7 games, where they're going to need Jalen. They're going to need him to step up and do the right thing from a passing perspective. There's going to be some games like, I thought tonight would be one of those games where he was going to have to throw the ball probably 30 times. He got to 28. I just feel like, he's got to make that adjustment. It's necessary, because I've seen it 1,000 times before. You've got great coordinators. I'll put it to you like this. When you get down to the last 4 teams, the 2 best teams in each conference, okay, that means that you've probably got the best coordinators on both sides of the ball on both of those teams. And what those coordinators are really good at is taking away the thing that you're best at. So they're going to get in an 8-man front, 7-man front, and they're going to force Jalen to have to win the game. So he's going to have to fix this, because at some point in time, they're going to force the Eagles' hands, and they're going to make Jalen have to win the game throwing the football, and he's going to have to be on point. Now, I don't know what the circumstances are. I don't know whether it's play calling, whether it's he's not reading the field fast enough. He's not getting through his progressions. He's locking on people. I don't know what it is, But whatever the issue is, he's going to have to rectify that over these next 7 games if they want to advance throughout the playoffs.
All right, last thing for you. Since the Jacksonville Jaguars game, we haven't seen a lot of fourth down attempts. Tonight they were great on third down, 0 fourth down attempts in tonight's game. Is this a changing of the philosophy of Nick Sirianni? We're going to see, I don't want to say conservative Nick Sirianni, but more playing by the non-analytical book from Nick Sirianni from that Jaguars game on.
You know, I just like the fact that he read the situation tonight. The situation didn't warrant him having to go for fourth downs and things of that nature. He took the field goals even though Jake missed them. I just think that that's the proper way to do it. I think that you can be as aggressive as you want to be. And I know what the numbers look like because somebody texted them to me. Oh, you know, they were 70% in 2021. They were, you know, whatever it was. Those numbers, they were well above 50%. But I always say that, you know, analytics is a 50-50 proposition. And I don't care what the numbers look like. You know, over a period of time, what's going to wind up happening, D-Gun, is the law average is going to catch up with you. And the thing you don't want it to do is catch up with you at the most critical time in the most critical game of the season. So continue to read the situation. Where it warrants you going for it on fourth down, then go for it. If it doesn't warrant it, like it didn't tonight, then stay away from it and call the game the way it needs to be called.
I think Nick had a perfect feel for this game. That's what I think it comes down to. He didn't rely on the analytics. He had that feel that we talk about the old school coaches have when they call games. And I think he can do a better job of that. And hopefully he does a better job of that, not relying on some robot to tell him exactly what to do in any given situation. I like the way he handled his situation. Take the sure 3 points when you had to.
Yeah.
Make the necessary calls. You don't have to go for it on fourth down. You saw how your defense was shutting them down. So, you know, I like the way he felt his way through this game tonight.
All right. Now, I couldn't agree with you guys more. The one situation that was a little bit questionable was the field goal before halftime when they had a 4th and 3 deep in the red zone. I think it was the 5-yard line, whatever it was. That was an opportunity I thought maybe old Nick goes for it. But feeling out the game is the most important thing for a coach. And that's why there's been other situations this year where that has not worked out. Unfortunately, this time around, it ended up burning them in a couple of field goal situations tonight because Jake Elliott, as you guys pointed out, did have a bit of an off night, to put it kindly. Now, before we get into our game balls, we have some giveaways, Seth, that I know you want to hook the fans up with. People can follow the show at Seth Joyner Show on YouTube. Also follow it on Instagram, all social media platforms, including LinkedIn as well. And you can give away some great stuff here, Seth.
Yeah, the guys, they're going to put up the graphic that shows you, you know, how to, you know, enter. We're going to continue to give stuff away. Tonight we're going to give away the A.J. Brown jersey, a mini helmet, and an autographed football that we'll send out to you. She's looking at me like I'm crazy. That's okay. Don't worry about it. So in 2 weeks, we'll give away another jersey. We'll give away another helmet and another football. We've also got, you know, 2 tickets to an upcoming Eagles home game and a suite. And we'll continue to give away more and more. Even when the jerseys are gone, we'll give away each week a helmet, a mini helmet, and a signed football, and, you know, till the season is over. But I think we've got our winners this week because we got an AJ jersey goes to Christine Goodwin on Facebook. I'm not even going to try to pronounce Larissa's last name right there, but she's going to get a helmet, a mini helmet, a signed mini helmet, and a football. So in this upcoming giveaways, you know, you see right there, I'm on X at Seth Joyner, Seth Joyner on Instagram, and Seth Joyner Show on Instagram. We've got two there, Facebook, Seth Joyner Show, YouTube, Seth Joyner Show, and LinkedIn, Seth Joyner. So as we move towards giving these gifts away, you know, we'll follow up with the instructions on how to do it. So there'll be no giveaway next week other than a helmet, a mini helmet, and a football. But the following week we'll give away Jalen's jersey, and we'll leave BG's, you know, for last. All right. So there's all the information where to go. And as we release these to be given away, you'll go to those, you know, respective social media platforms, and the instructions on what to do will be there for how to get them.
Fair enough.
Well, congratulations to our winners tonight, though.
Absolutely, especially Larissa.
Yes.
Double shout out for her. When it comes to game balls for this one, gentlemen, Gunnar, I'll go to you first. Who are you giving a game ball to for their performance tonight against the Commanders?
Saquon. I mean, two back-breaking runs to seal the deal at the end of the game. This kid is simply phenomenal, man. 28 touches, 198 yards of total offense, 2 touchdowns. I got to give it to Saquon. I mean, there's a lot of deserving players in this game tonight. I got to give it to Saquon.
Saquon Barkley gets the game ball. Seth, where are you going?
I'm going to give it to the defense. I think the defense was outstanding.
Yep.
And like I said, I love Saquon. He really does. If you're going to give it individually, he deserves, the game ball. But I think the defense kept the Eagles in this game long enough for Saquon to be able to do what he did. And like I said, they got the turnover on downs. Then, they go on the 5-play, 76-yard drive. And then they turn around with the interception the very next series. And then he rips off, the 39-yard touchdown. So if the defense doesn't do what it does, maybe he's not in a position to have the kind of second half that he had. But I thought the defense played so well against an offense that was averaging 377 yards of total offense. They shut them down until that last drive to 209 yards of total offense. The defense was just outstanding tonight.
You know what? I'm seeing in our chat, BamMan100 says, give some love to Kenny Gainwell. Not that he's going to get my game ball, but when you talk about that tush-push touchdown from Jalen Hurts that made it 12-10 after the missed
those 2 runs.
3 runs, actually.
Yeah.
14 yards. 14 runs, 1 drive. Amazing. 14 yards on that drive on 1 run, 13 on another, and then 7 on his final run. And then they set it up for it was then Saquon off the edge, just short of the touchdown, and then tush-push touchdown. Credit to Jalen Hurts. So, yes, hat tip at least to Kenny Gainwell. But for me, Seth, to your point, I'm giving my game ball to Vic Fangio. To make adjustments in game, to make adjustments in the season, and to find a way to get the absolute best out of your players. How many times do we hear the cliche, I got to put our players in a better position to make a play and have success?
Right.
Vic Fangio does that. That ain't just coach speak. And he is the most perfect coach speaker I think I've ever heard, where he is fair and he is honest without being egregious and being over the top, where it almost seems disingenuous because he just wants to show how much of a hard ass he could be. But he really does it in a way that helps his players become better. And all in all, that's what you ask for in a coordinator. That's what you ask for in a coach. And Seth, you could certainly speak to that more so than I can. But when you just look at what this defense has done throughout this season, and the young guys just continue to develop and get better and better, all the credit in the world to Vic Fangio for what he's done. And, I mean, case in point, I don't know if you heard him this week talking about Zach Bond. Howie came up to him and said, I think we have this special teams guy that we could really use in Zach Bond. Vic Fangio watched the tape. He goes, no, he's an inside linebacker. Just like that. And here he is playing at a Pro Bowl level. Your Philadelphia Eagles, ladies and gentlemen, are 8-2. They're in first place, and they just made Jaden Daniels finally look like a rookie. One heck of a week here and a quick turnaround for your Eagles squad. Eagles 8-2, first place in the division. We got 10 days before the Eagles are back on prime time, this time against the LA Rams out there in Los Angeles. For Seth Joyner, for Derrick Gunn, I'm Marc Farzetta. This is the betPARX postgame show presented by Lehocky. We'll be back with you guys in 10 days following or pre and post Rams.
Way to fly, young birds.